MAGA Republican Congressman Jim Jordan appeared on 60 Minutes, and one of the moments was absolutely incredible. Lesley Stahl leaves Jim Jordan speechless with a perfect bit of pushback to Jim Jordan's questioning of the 2020 election and a bit of context before playing the clip for you. The focus of this line of questioning from Stahl was around social media's dealing with mis and disinformation. And this is particularly relevant right now, given some cases that are being heard in front of the Supreme Court. And we'll talk about that more after this.
Congressman Jordan argues that the tech companies shouldn't remove most of what they call misinformation.
I think you let the American people respect the American people, their common sense, to figure out what's accurate, what isn't.
Well, what about this idea that the 2020 election was stolen? You think that these companies should allow people to say that?
Really quickly, going to pause your viewing of this segment to ask you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's so helpful to grow the show. Just make sure that subscribe button is clicked and click the like button as well. Back to the video.
And individuals can make up their own mind, and that there should be...
I think the American people are smart. Look, I've not said that. What I've said is there were concerns about the 2020 election. I think Americans agree with that.
No, they don't.
You don't think they think there were concerns with the 2020 election?
Most people don't question the result. That's all I'm saying. They don't question whether Biden won or not. Right? Right? Most people don't question the outcome.
Right.
So very strange from Jim Jordan. Now, before I tell you about the Supreme Court cases that were the foundation of this conversation, I'll play more clips from the interview. I do just have to address this appeal to public opinion nonsense again. We just discussed this with the Donald Trump Jr. interview where he does the same thing, but Jim Jordan there trying to say that people have concerns over the 2020 election, and that justifies, I guess, his own concerns in his mind, which, first of all, have the slightest bit of backbone, Jim, and stand by your ridiculous conspiracy theories that you espouse elsewhere. Because we see this a lot, and I'm sick of it. MAGA Republicans who spew all the normal MAGA nonsense about the election on right-wing networks. Someone like Jim Jordan tried to overturn the results of the election, and then when they go to actual reputable outlets that care about facts a little bit, they try to minimize those views down to, I just have questions. That's it. That's all I've ever said. I just have questions. Have the slightest bit of courage and at least give us the respect of being transparent with your craziness. But that aside, we hear so dang often from MAGA Republican leaders, whether it be elected or in the media, a justification of their spreading of election conspiracy theories by saying, well, a lot of people believe that the election of Biden was illegitimate. And Lesley Stahl easily shut down the idea that a majority of Americans believe that, but 70% of Republicans do believe it. So a massive portion of the country believes it, which does that make it any more true? No, absolutely not. And it's especially dishonest to point to a group of people's belief as justification for yours when you're the one who convinced that group of that belief. Is these MAGA leaders who cause people to unjustifiably believe these very election lies. So no, the fact that you were successful in convincing those people doesn't make their view any more legitimate or your view any more legitimate. With that being said, before getting to another clip from that interview, let me give you the big news on the Supreme Court. Take a look.
This morning, a crucial question takes center stage at the Supreme Court. How far can the government go in regulating political content on social media? The justices will hear arguments today about whether two laws passed in Republican-run states are constitutional, one from Florida, the other from Texas. The Florida law bans tech companies from suspending the accounts of political candidates. The Texas law makes it illegal for tech companies to remove political content based on someone's viewpoint, even if it's hate speech. Supporters of these laws say social media platforms have been censoring users, especially those with conservative or religious views. But tech companies argue they have a right under the First Amendment to set their own standards to prevent misinformation.
It's about government, in this case, Republican government, forcing a private platform to say something it doesn't want to say.
Yeah, so that's one of the big cases the Supreme Court will decide on relating to social media. And the second is a lawsuit against the Biden administration trying to prevent the government from having contact with social media outlets. So these two big cases could reshape social media. Again, the first being a challenge against Florida and Texas laws that seek to force social media outlets to keep certain things on their platform. And the second, again, being a challenge against the government's ability to have certain communications with social media outlets. Now, my stance on these is that obviously it's absurd for the government to come in the case of Texas and Florida, and say private social media companies don't have the right to have terms of service and enforce them. Even just as a matter of business, think about this. My capitalist Republicans out there, think about this for me. These social media companies, they want people to like using their platform, right? That's how they're going to make money. And when you have absolute mayhem with no terms of service, people stop liking the platform. And we've seen this tried with right-wing companies, and it just doesn't ever work. And so as, again, a capitalistic business decision, they need that ability to keep running a successful company. And then on the second case, the justices already heard oral arguments, and even the super conservative Supreme Court seemed likely to side with the Biden administration, because obviously the government can reach out to social media companies like the Trump administration did a bunch of times, Republicans, and even request that certain posts be looked at or taken down, as long as they don't coerce or force the social media companies, then it's not a violation of the First Amendment. Again, that seems to be what the justices are going to rule. And with that in mind, this next clip is in reference to Jim Jordan and Republicans targeting and investigating academic researchers who identify misinformation and then forward it to the companies to look at, specifically Kate Starbird, who's a professor at the University of Washington, and she leads one of these misinformation research groups. And by the way, she said in her interview with 60 Minutes that the vast majority of the posts she and her team forward to Facebook, for example, don't even get responded to. But Republicans are saying this is a part of a conspiracy to censor conservatives. Okay, here was Jim Jordan being confronted on this.
There are people who make the accusation that going after these researchers, misinformation researchers, is tantamount to harassment, and that your goal really is to chill the research.
I find that it interesting you use the word chill, because in effect, what they're doing is chilling First Amendment free speech rights. When they're working in an effort to censor Americans, that's a chilling impact on speech.
They say what you're doing, they do, is a violation of their First Amendment rights.
Us pointing out, us doing our constitutional duty of oversight of the executive branch, and somehow we're censoring, that makes no sense to me.
We, Americans, we're looking at the same thing and seeing a different truth.
Well, you might see different things. I don't think you can see the different truth, because truth is truth.
Okay, the researchers say they're being chilled. That's their truth.
Yeah.
You're saying they're not. So what's the truth?
They can do their research. God bless them. Do all the research you want. Don't say we think this particular tweet is not true,
Well, that's their First Amendment right to say that.
Well, they can say it, but they can't take it down.
Well, they can't take it down, and they don't. They just send their information to the companies.
But when they're coordinating with government, that's a different animal.
Okay. Well, of course, they deny they're coordinating.
We just went round and round.
I wonder if there's a way to measure the shifting meaning of misinformation.
Starbird says she and her team feel intimidated by the conservatives' campaign. So while they will continue releasing their research reports on misinformation, they will no longer send their findings to the social media platforms.
Yeah, so the chilling effect is working. And by the way, Jim Jordan does this a lot, and other MAGA elected leaders do this a lot. They pretend like they're not a part of the government. So now he's going after people, he's targeting people, and he's having a chilling effect because he's a part of the government too. But then he's saying, no, but it's the government doing a chilling effect against the other people. That's what I'm trying to prevent. But in so doing, you're going after other people's freedom of speech, which, yes, researchers can use their freedom of speech to communicate to social media outlets that, hey, this post might violate your terms of service, take a look at it. But Jim Jordan is targeting them for that. And then acting like, no, but I'm trying to prevent the government from going after people and violating the First Amendment. But you're a part of the government. And we see a similar rhetorical thing when it comes to Fox News, for example, constantly ranting about the media and talking about mainstream media. And you'll never hear this in mainstream media. The media will never tell you this. You're one of the biggest media outlets. What are you talking about? Always trying to separate themselves from the very entity that they're a part of. So let me know what you think of all that in the comments. Rather interesting stuff.